I'd like to propose something to you, but it's up to you to verify. Individuality is a myth. It's not real. If I, for instance, told you that this pen can fly on its own, this too is a proposition. And so you have your different ways of trying to verify it. How will it fly? Do you press a button? Will it start flying? And so it's up to you to verify if that statement is real. And so here I propose that individuality is a myth. Now, many individuals, shock, will not like this. They will not like to hear this because it's an attack on that individuality. And so why is that? Let's look deeper into it. And what is the point of even discovering something like that? Why do we want to discover that individuality is a myth? Well, maybe because all suffering that has ever been experienced by any human being, or by yourself, or by anyone, stems from that same individuality. Does that mean that recognizing that individuality is a myth, does that mean that it sets you free from all suffering? All suffering is now recognized for what it is, in the same way that this sense of individuality is also recognized for what it is. And so this is perhaps an investigation into whether individuality is a myth or not. But let's break this down. Let's suppose that when you are associated with a particular item, what happens? And what I mean by that, let's give a more specific example. Imagine you buy a car, a red Mercedes. You've just bought a red Mercedes and you're really happy with it. You step in the car, it feels fresh, your hands are on the steering wheel and you drive away. After some time driving, you come across another red Mercedes. And you're like, oh, look, this is the same car as the one I'm driving right now. And then you carry on driving. And then you come across another Mercedes. Oh, look, this is the same car as the one I'm driving right now. Does it mean that there are more red Mercedeses on the road? Does it mean that there are a lot more of them on the road just because you bought it? Well, very simply put, you are associated with this item now, and so you are more easily able to pick them up. You are more easily able to distinguish other red Mercedes cars on the road. And so this is an example of how, in association with an idea or an object, can alter your reality. The red Mercedes on the roads are now a lot more pronounced compared to the other cars. And so imagine how the ideas and the belief systems and the opinions we associate ourselves with, imagine how they determine reality, how they have an impact on reality, how they alter what stands out to us and what doesn't. So, in the same way, individuality is just a bunch of those ideas, opinions, and so on. Now, if you decide to sell this Mercedes car that you bought and you buy a new one, a white Volkswagen, you now start to pick up more white Volkswagens, perhaps. Same model as your car, shape. You start to pick those up more often. And so as the opinion has changed, as the association with the object or the belief system has changed, what appears in reality also seems to change. But it doesn't mean that what hasn't appeared in reality isn't there. Or just because something is less pronounced with whatever appears in our experience, it doesn't make it any different or less significant. We impose the significance. The white Volkswagen that we now come across is more significant than any other car by default, even if we haven't agreed upon that in any way. But it has to be more significant because it seems to be the thing that stands out to us more often now. And so because this sense of individuality that is composed of these ideas and beliefs and so on, because that can change so much, because that can be influenced so much, what is consistent about our individuality? Because I'd like to tell you, or invite you to see, that the only consistency there is the ability to see the ever-changing and transformative nature of the individuality. And I'll repeat that. The only consistency that is there is the ability to be able to observe change. Therefore, that which is able to observe the change of the character, because the individual you are today is not the individual you were 10 years ago. But that which is consistent is the reason why we are able to even say this and distinguish that what you were 10 years ago is not the same as what you are today. And that very consistency that isn't changing, well, I was going to ask you a question. I've just told you the answer. But in essence, the nature of that which is consistent has to, by definition, be unchanging. Otherwise, it would not be able to recognize the very changing and transformative nature of the individuality. So therefore, when you fight for yourself, and when you are there to try and protect yourself, and when you're fighting for your rights, for your country, for your religion, for all the things that fall under the categories of ideas, objects, and belief systems, they can change. So whatever you were fighting for 10 years ago may not be relevant to you today at all. So was it worth the fight? And so you can quickly see how this entanglement with this individuality that we're fighting for, that millions and millions of people are dying for, this is what they're dying for. We can quickly see that this is the root of suffering. So, is individuality true? Is it real? It's ever changing. You cannot capture it and contain it. It's ever changing. And so now you may ask, okay, then, if I am not the me I thought I was, what am I? And that's a beautiful question to look into and end this video on. This is Hassan from The Spiritual Walks, and we are all on a journey towards the truth.